Okay, guys, today we'll be talking about prison politics. In particular, the prison politics in the California prison system, which is where I have all my experience from. More specifically, the politics relating to the white population or the white demographic. The wood, peckerwood, white boy, whatever you want to call it. Obviously, because I'm white, so that's where my experience is. So, the California prison system is segregated by race. I know that might sound racist, and maybe it is, but it wasn't designed with a racism as a motivator. It was designed to kind of keep the peace, and I'll explain that in a minute. This is not a Department of Corrections policy. This is an inmate policy, and we've had it like this for decades. And kind of the gist of it is, back in the days, like in the 60s, maybe even earlier than that, 60s, 70s, the overwhelming majority of inmates were black, and then second to that would be Hispanics and then whites. And what was happening was there was no unity amongst the Mexicans or the whites, not even necessarily with the blacks either, but they just had so many numbers that they can kind of just do whatever they wanted, especially to Mexicans and whites. They would rob us, steal from us, rape us, extort us, etc., etc., etc. So the Mexicans kind of started at first where they said, well, hey, why don't we all get together and unite as one, so that way if someone messes with one of us, they have to mess with all of us. And they kind of started that, and that's where the Mexican mafia comes from. Shortly after that, the whites followed suit and did the same thing, because it's not fair for for any inmate for that matter to come to prison and do his time and have to be subject to extortion or rape or whatever. So this kind of put a stop to all that. So the whites and the Mexicans kind of clicked up and formed an alliance. Over time, a faction of the Hispanics broke off and did their own thing. And that would be the Mexicans that were from like Northern California that felt like they were different from the rest of the Mexicans and also felt like they were treated unfairly or lesser than by their Hispanic peers. So they kind of broke off and did their own thing, and they called and formed the Nuestra Familia, which is Spanish for our family, which was the predecessor to the Northern Hispanics or the Norteños. Then the Mexicans that they broke off from would be considered nowadays as your Southern Mexicans or Sureños or Southsiders, and then the whites are the whites, with our upper echelon being the Aryan Brotherhood. And so that's kind of like where this got started from. But nowadays, there's just these main categories of race. There's whites, there's blacks, there's Southern Mexicans, which are your typical, your cholo. They say, "Hey, what's up, ese? Hey, vato, Holmes." Like that's your Southerner. Then you have your Northern Mexicans, which are also Mexican Americans, but who come from specifically Northern California. Generally speaking, they kind of identify more with like black culture. They have an alliance with the blacks in prison, and they, listen to rap and say the N-word. They're more inclined to that. Then you have Mexican nationals, which are known as paisas. We call them paisas. Those would be like actual Mexicans from Mexico who came to California and got in trouble. Then you have others, and your others are anyone who's not white, black, or Mexican. So Asians, Islanders, Indians, that sort of thing. So California is kind of notorious for having these rigid racial segregations. Think of each race as kind of like its own gang, and it's kind of is that way, and that's how it's operated. And so each gang has its own like rules and procedures and standards that they adhere to. So that being said, the whites are kind of known for having a pretty tough program. Like, it's not easy to be white in prison. We're very militant. We have strict rules and guidelines that we stick to, and it's not the place for the faint of heart or the weak. And we hold each other accountable with violence, and we kind of had to be that way because we were always the minority in prison. So we had to make up for that numerical inferiority with violence of action. So that's kind of where that came from. So the main rule or rule of thumb, I guess, would be this: if it's not white, it's not right. You're going to hear that in prison if you're white. And basically what that means is, like, when it comes to interacting with members of another race in the population, keep that at arm's length. Keep that at a minimum. You can't over familiarize with members of another race unless we're talking Southern Hispanics or Southsiders. That we can. But like if it's a Northerner, black, or other, you cannot eat with them or share food. You cannot gamble. You cannot live with or bunk up with. It's really strict and it's really serious. And that might sound like it's a racial thing, like, oh, we're too good to eat with a black or or northerner. But it's not that. It has more to do with keeping the peace. Because if you become over familiar with someone of another race, that opens up more doors for stuff to go wrong and disagreements to occur. And then when that happens, now you bring in both races and now it's a riot. Because, you know, each race is going to stick up for their own race if things get violent. So it's like if you're white, for example, you cannot get a one-on-one fight with another race. You have to handle that through diplomatic channels. You cannot just go take off on another race. I mean, not to say it doesn't happen, but that's the rules. So if you're white and you see a white dude getting into it with another race, you need to be there for him and go back him up. If they start fighting, you have to jump in and help him. If there's a riot, you have to participate in that riot. 100% have to. If you don't, you're going to pay consequences after the riot's over and after the lockdown's over. You're going to get removed. We do cleanup. It's called cleanup. We clean our own house. So who didn't jump during the riot? Oh, that guy. So don't be that guy. So yeah, so you can't really do business. Well, you can do business, I guess, but like you can't really. The main things are like sharing food. Like if someone doesn't eat something off their dinner tray and you want it, you can't eat off it because it's already been no good now. So really, eating or drinking or smoking, doing drugs, tattooing, can't do any of that with members of another race. Only other race you can do that with are Paisas and Southsiders. Tattoo with, eat, play sports, the whole shit with them, but not any other race. Serious consequences if you don't adhere to these. We police our own. And so if you fuck up and you break one of those rules, you're going to get what's called a DP. A DP means like disciplinary punishment. And that will range in severity anywhere from like intense workout to getting stabbed and removed. So we kind of have like a hierarchy. There's going to be like the leader of us at any given prison will be called the key holder. We don't use the term shot caller. That's a stupid term. I don't know where it came from. Maybe it's from a movie. I don't know. We don't use that term. We just call him the key holder or the head or the guy that's got the yard. So he'll be in charge of like all the whites on the yard, right? And then each housing unit on that yard, like each building or each wing, will have its own key holder, right? And they report to the main key holder. So think of it like a captain and his lieutenants, and then so on and so forth. So, any type of issue, especially with another race, you'll get your key holder about it, and they'll handle that for you. Yeah, DPs. I mean, like, so I've held the keys before. I'm not saying I'm anyone like special or hardcore, or I've never had a yard or nothing like that. But I have had the keys to housing units or at the county jail level. And if like one of my guys fuck up, the last thing I want to do is hurt them or put hands on them. Like some guys are real violent and they want to go straight to that. I'm more about like building up someone and having him learn from his mistakes and building him up rather than break him down. So I will usually favor really intense workouts. Like make the dude work out till he pukes, or make him work out 5 days a week with me, and I'll run him into the ground. Or if necessary, we'll put hands on him. But usually, like, you don't really get a beat down unless you do something particularly egregious or you disrespect another race. We kind of have to do it in front of them to let them see it because we're not going to let them handle it. We handle our own. We police our own. We handle our own. So, like, if a white dude owes a black dude money he can't pay, we're not just going to let the blacks do what they want with them. We'll take care of it. We'll get rid of them for you. And that kind of keeps the peace and maintains balance and promotes, safe environment, so to speak. When it comes to like talking to guards or prison guards or staff, you always want to bring a shadow with you. I mean, bring a partner or a buddy. That way, no one can ever say or put your name in question. So some guys get annoyed by this, like, "Oh, you don't trust me? What, you think I'm over there snitching?" No, we don't think you're over there snitching. We don't want, especially like another race, to point the finger at you and say, "Hey, I saw him talking to the cops. 5 minutes later, our cell gets hit and we get caught with X, Y, and Z." No one can ever pull your name into question if you have someone that can verify what you were doing with the police. Same thing applies when you write a medical form or a request form to anyone for any reason. Have somebody read it to also verify you're not snitching. I mean, again, it gets kind of annoying sometimes because obviously you're not going to, if you're solid, you're not going to tell. And it goes without saying. But this is just more or less for other people. They can never say that you did. Cover your own ass, basically. Have to have your shoes on at all times. You can't walk around in shower shoes. You need to have your shoes on. You need to be ready basically for battle at any given time. You need to work out every day to maintain peak optimal physical condition, because when the shit goes down, it goes down. When a riot happens, you know what the guards do? They run. The guards run away and they lock you in. If you're in the cafeteria like I was in the Folsom riot of 2009, they'll lock you in there and they'll leave. If you're on the yard, they'll just run away, and you are on your own for at least 10-15 minutes, but riots can go on for upwards of 40 minutes. So fighting for that long a time, you need to be in good shape. You're no good to me if you're out of gas within the first 5 minutes. What the guards do is they all leave, they run, and they go to the armory and they get all strapped up with the big pepper spray, tanks, the big grenade launchers and rifles and the whole shit. So it takes them a little bit to equip and regroup, and then they come back. So when a riot happens, you are on your own. It's scary, and you can die. Your safety is now in question. So you need to be like in peak physical condition, and you need to be there and to be ready. So that's why it's there. We don't want a riot. It's the last thing that we want. It's the last thing anybody wants. Because not only if you survive the riot, there's going to be a very long lockdown period. Before you go on lockdown for 2 months, you're going to be laid out on the yard in the hot sun for hours while they fucking flex cuff you, strip you to your boxers, and process you. I mean, it's just the whole thing about a riot is terrible. It is terrible, and it will kill you. So we don't want that. So we will go to great lengths to avoid it, but it does happen sometimes. Other policies include like tattoos. If you want to get like certain tattoos, you have to earn your tattoos. You can't just get whatever you wanted, tattooed on you. You got to earn a lot of your shit, especially if you want like the letters from what city you're from or other political stuff like that. You have to earn it by putting in work and get the blessing of either the key holder or a big homeboy from whatever area you're from. Because while we're all white, we kind of break down by what county we're from. Like, so Sacramento, San Diego kind of breaks down from there. But at the end of the day, we're all on the same page. We're all one. Let's see. I guess that's kind of the main thing. Like, we check each other's paperwork. So if you're white, you need to have your paperwork on deck, and to show it to any white man who asks. When you touch down somewhere, someone will approach you, either the key holder or one of their representatives. They're going to approach you and ask you for your paperwork. Do not take this as disrespect, because it's not. They want to make sure that you check out. They don't know you. You know you, but they don't know you, and you don't know them. So anytime that you're asked for your paperwork, you have the right to ask for theirs in return, and they have to show it to you. They might get annoyed, but that's your right, and that's how I was taught, and that's how we teach our other white boys. When you're asked for your paperwork, always give it, and if you want, you can ask for theirs in return, and they have to show you theirs. This is so we know we all check out. You cannot ride mainline GP if you have sex charges, crimes against women, crimes against children, or elderly abuse, or even certain arson charges are no good. So yeah, if you got charges like that, you're all bad, and we'll try our best to kill you. You will get killed. It's not if you have charges like that, I'm just gonna say that you're good luck surviving. But so yeah, we do background checks. I always get my you bring your paperwork from court when you get sentenced in court to the prison with you. So I always get from my lawyer. I make sure to get it's called my DOJ FBI rap sheet. It shows everything that I've ever been arrested for. So everything about me, even convictions and non-convictions, it shows everything. But usually just like your something that shows your charges will suffice. Your counselor in prison can give you an LSS. That's your legal status summary. It shows your current charges. So that will suffice. But I always go above and beyond and show everything I've ever been arrested for, so my name could never be brought up into question. Because sometimes we need to look a little bit deeper than what your current charges are. Maybe you might have dirt on your record from a prior case, and that needs to be looked at sometimes if you get called into question. But yeah, we do background checks. We check each other out. Kind of like the main thing is like your cellie or your bunkmate is like, you kind of got to watch their back no matter what. You might hate him at times. Usually I hate all my cellies over time just because you live with them and they get on your nerves, and that's just human nature. But your cellie should kind of come first. You always like look out for your cellie, make sure he comes first, because you guys are a unit. So like always look out for your cellie. When you go to store, make sure you hook your cellie up, share your food with him. I mean, unless he's like a total douchebag or something, or a piece of shit, like, yeah, like share your stuff with him. He'll share his with you. This is how I was taught. Look out for your cellie, your neighbors, no matter what race they are. Always be friendly and cordial with them, and share with them. You hit a package, send your neighbors, some treats or something out of your package or whatever. Just kind of like, just kind of be a good dude in that respect. No matter what race they are, you're allowed to give them items or coffee or whatever you want to do. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. You can't like I mean, I'm from Sacramento. I listen to rap. I'm not like racist or anything, but you can't like go on there sagging your pants. You can't have dreadlocks in your hair. I've seen guys that get pressed up on for that, and they make them shave their hair, shave their head, or they get got. So you kind of got to get with the program and at least have some semblance of acting white. white. And general rule of thumb, while like you're allowed to do drugs and get high in there, and there's plenty of drugs in prison, I strongly, strongly, strongly suggest to stay away from drugs at all costs. It will lead to all sorts of trouble that you don't want. Trust me on this. I get it. Most of us are addicts. When we go in there, we're in prison. It's a shitty place. We're depressed. We're away from our families, our girlfriends, whatever. And that's all the more reason to want to use. But I'm telling you right now, it's a bad idea. Stay away from drugs at all costs. If you want to have a smooth ride through prison and survive it with as little trouble as possible, do not mess with drugs at all in any way, shape, or form. I am telling you right now, it's a recipe for disaster. Stay away from drugs. If you want to get high, wait till you get to the streets and then get high. So that is pretty much it. I mean, there's going to be designated areas. So when you touch down at a prison, like make sure you hit up your people, find out which areas are ours. There's going to be like certain showers and tables and yard areas, yard equipment, handball courts, basketball courts that's all segregated. Remember, like I told you, so you need to know what area is what. You don't want to go traipsing through someone else's a member of another race's area. You get like if you're a white boy and you just fucking absently walk through the black guy's basketball court, they're gonna jump on you, and vice versa. So you need to be aware of where you're going and what you're doing and what's what. But someone will lace you up on that. So that is our politics.